You have arrived at the Community-Driven Resilience Hub's webinar, and I am Mary Rose Taruc, your MC for today. You are up for just the right amount, the right stories for the day that we woke up in today. If you could, in your, wherever you are, just, we're going to do a land acknowledgement of where we are. If you're able, plant your big toes on whatever surface you're touching, or imagine yourself being planted on this clay earth here on Lisjan Ohlone land, also known as Oakland, California to some of us, and that we acknowledge and are grateful for those who have stewarded this land for thousands of years, and that we may not be in this mess if we never allowed for that violence to happen, and that there are descendants of those living on Ohlone land who want to come back and rematriate the land, and we support that. And if you haven't already heard of the Shumi Land Tax, I'm going to put the Shumi Land Tax on the chat, which is the Segurite Land Trust of Ohlone folks here want to gain back their ancestral land. And so we should support them. I pay my Shumi land tax and encourage you all to do the same. Yeah, I'm seeing on the chat folks who are acknowledging the land that they're in, the indigenous folks who are from that land. Feel free to also share those greetings. What a day to have this talk on resiliency today. If you're able or would like to, or visualize, just put your hand on your heart. What a day today to wake up to these brown skies, the grief that we feel for what's happening to land, fires, the people that we care about, who are worried about whether their power will be around or access, those who are evacuating, those who are struggling to breathe, that we are in community with them, people, plants, the fires, the skies. Those are all community to us, and we have a lot to learn from indigenous folks to be in right relationship with each other and the land. And so we approach this conversation and this webinar about resiliency with so many wise people who are going to share their experience with us. I just want to share a little bit that I'm the coordinator of the Reclaim Our Power campaign for utility justice, that we see energy as a human right, not one that a private corporation like PG&E controls, but one where we have access to it and that we have power to live, and that our energy system should be in the hands of the people if we are managing energy as a human right, and that PG&E is not in our future. They're collapsing, and we are organizing to be able to control our utility system from frontline communities and workers, and that our leadership is based in communities of color, frontline communities, fire survivors, young people, environmental justice communities, and that to us being led by BIPOC, folks who are the most impacted by the issues are the ones who are leading this charge. And so we will hear from folks who are leading this charge around community resilience, community-driven energy. In our panel today, there's two sets of panelists for today. In this increasingly chaotic world of never-ending disasters, we must be ready for anything. So the NorCal Resilience Network, and the Local Clean Energy Alliance are here to teach us, and that we are going to learn about one of the most promising and equitable approaches to scaling up local resilience, and that is resilience hubs. And during the first half of the webinar, you'll hear or you'll listen to inspirational stories from the organizers who are working in neighborhood sites and the potential to catalyze a network of hubs and spaces around the region. And then we'll take a short break, and then the second half, you will learn from some of the region's top community energy experts about how you can get involved in the campaign to bring off-grid electricity to hubs and spaces, with special guests from the East Bay Community Energy joining us to talk about their efforts. And so our first panelist, if you can give your round of applause, is going to get kicked off by Susan Silber, who is the founder and director of the NorCal Resilience Network. Susan's going to give an overview of the NorCal Resilience and Resiliency hubs and spaces. Susan, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Mary Rose. Can you all hear me? Great, and gratitude for you and to all the amazing panelists for all the work that you're doing. As Mary Rose has said, this is an epic moment right now in humanity, just feeling into the chaos, the uncertainty, the sadness. We all woke up this morning to the apocalyptic, bright orange sky, the smell of smoke that seems to be our new normal. So I am going to share my screen right now, share a few slides with you all. So pandemics, heat waves are utterly useless national leadership. So how can we be ready for all of this, for any of this? The NorCal Resilience Network is using the framework of the just transition to catalyze and support community-based and regenerative ecological solutions in Northern California. We focus on community resilience, which emphasizes the important role that services, support networks, and relationships play in promoting resilience, and centered in equity and racial and social justice. Our theory of change is first that we must uplift and support the plethora of visionary organizations that are building resilience in our community. So NorCal Resilience envisions this vast Northern California landscape of social and environmental justice groups as a regenerative ecosystem, where each organization fills a unique niche that collectively generates a new system as our old one is collapsing. We see the tenacity and the power in all of you doing extraordinary work. We use a holistic approach to resilience. We're evolving our decentralized governing structure to build a coalition we call the Circle of Collaborators. So we welcome and honor the grassroots organizations, healers, indigenous activists, artists, permaculture designers, local businesses, etc. We also try and support under-resourced projects and organizations. We offer capacity building workshops, mutual aid calls, and collaboration opportunities. And you're welcome to join as a collaborator, a volunteer. We also have internships available. Our second theory of change is the on-the-ground work, starting in the neighborhoods, transforming sites and places into demonstrations for resiliency. So that's the Resilient Hubs Initiative. So our partners at the Urban Sustainability Directors Network pioneered the work of Resilient Hubs. The official definition of hubs is that they're trusted community centers, recreation centers, libraries, and schools that also serve as gathering places to distribute resources during disasters. And they're also that they're demonstrations for climate solutions year round. And typically they do require enhancements and upgrades to improve their capacity to provide service during and after disasters. And it's important to note that partnering with local governments is important, but the work and the power is shifted to the community sites and organizations, unlike the approach of FEMA or the Red Cross. Also, resilient spaces enhance community resilience on a smaller scale, like community gardens. And then resilient neighborhoods bring together the hubs and the spaces, as well as the ideally resilient power, like a microgrid, and the community organizers who can do the work. So our vision is to build the network of these sites that are both urban and rural. And we want to honor, acknowledge that there's a lot of sites already doing this incredible work, and we want to support other sites to become hubs and spaces. So what does sustainability and ecological, what do hubs look like and feel like? The first pillar is sustainability. So honoring that the original stewards of the land were and are Indigenous people. So just showing a few examples of hubs in action. We've got Wanda Stewart, who's passing out excess produce from Hoover Elementary School, which is a hub in West Oakland. And then Jessica Bates, who organized her neighborhood to host crop swaps and many other community activities in El Sobrante. And here she installed a 5,000-gallon rainwater catchment system that she's sharing with their neighbors. And then the second pillar is disaster preparedness, which is obviously a huge need for this. So getting our neighbors and community members prepared as much as we can for natural and climate disasters. It can be as simple as passing on emergency kits or masks to vulnerable populations, or in the case of a fire, having hubs and communities that are prepared to support each other and provide sites they can evacuate to. And we have a special urgent call to install solar with battery backup to hubs in every community, a climate-friendly solution for the blackouts we know are going to continue. And one site that's greatly in need of this system, solar with battery backup, is Disability Justice Culture Club, who you will hear from next. And we really need to advocate to provide funding to install these systems to hubs in vulnerable communities like these. Lastly, our third pillar is community programs, which I know many of you are doing really well, very well. And we know that working on community projects with the positive action is a powerful way to build social cohesion community. One hub, for example, is the Dream Youth Clinic, which is a youth-led, youth-empowered health clinic that also runs restorative justice programs. The youth envisioned a community garden last year, and NorCal Resilience provided them with a grant and volunteers to help them during their garden workday. Another hub is Canonical Farm, which is creating a space for formerly incarcerated prisoners to have a safe home to reintegrate. And they do have solar and a first site to be installing a battery backup system. And they're really a permaculture oasis in the middle of East Oakland. The last area of change is that we need funding and resources for these projects and organizations. We know that eco-justice organizations are chronically underfunded. So we currently redistribute about $40,000 in funds to our partners, and we really need to raise millions more for hubs and organizations. So we invite you to join in our efforts to scale up this project and these efforts. Tonight, in fact, we have an emergency community meeting for the East Bay folks on the 22nd. We have a webinar coming up to focus on food security. We're gathering feedback for our next phase of Resilient Hubs. And then, really exciting, we're gonna have a training in collaboration with local governments to support Resilient Hubs with the cities of Fremont, Oakland, San Leandro, and San Rafael already signed up as collaborators. So this is really a co-collaboration with local governments, but again, with community sites, community-based organizations at the center. So just imagining what we could do if we had resilient hubs, resilient spaces on every block, every city, led by BIPOC organizers. So thank you all so much. And I will leave my contact information and ways to get involved. We'll have the next speaker.
Thank you so much, Susan. Let's, you can give your applauses. You have your reactions, little icons. You can do your clap. We see you on the screen. Thank you, Susan, for setting us on the right path and those examples and pictures of beautiful, colorful community doing that work. Our next speaker, we have Patrice Strahan. Patrice is an organizer with the famous Disability Justice Culture Club. Patrice will be sharing some inspirational stories about the organizing work with DJCC and sharing why off-grid solar is so urgently needed for the disability justice community especially. And so with that, let's turn to Patrice.
Okay, I'm going to try to share my screen. Is it sharing? Or?
Yes, you can see it.
So, So good day, everybody. My name is Patrice Strahan, and I'm currently one of the core members of Disability Justice Culture Club, a disability justice collective located on Ohlone Chichenyo land in deep East Oakland, California. The main project that we're working on at this time is an East Bay mutual aid network supporting elders and disabled folks. So the way the system works is that a core group of disabled organizers field requests and connect volunteers and resources to elders and disabled requesters in need of help. And support can range from delivering groceries and medications to helping with light housework, providing masks and air purifiers and PPE and other types of support related to the multiple calamities facing our populations today. As of today, we have been able to help around 190 people, with around 70 to 80 being recurring requests that have recurred throughout the pandemic. And we have had over 400 individuals and groups support the network, either by signing up to be volunteers or by donating funds and supplies. So here's a picture of the collective with our late founder, Stacy. And here's a picture of us at an action for Moms for Housing. And then here's a book club potluck that we had at the house, because the house has a hub. It was like a community hub. So there was the movement work and also just gathering and community building work. Here are some flyers for some of the events that we hosted for the community, including a COVID legal document planning, organized by a core member, Dana Garza. And here are some pictures of some volunteers with the network distributing supplies. So our response to COVID began a little before March 16th when the shelter in place occurred. And we had been distributing COVID care kits before then a little bit. And then as the shelter in place was issued, we moved quickly to recreate the network, which we had already created last year, last fall as part of the Power to Live Coalition. We had helped organize and run a similar mutual aid network to support seniors and disabled folks during the wildfires and the PG&E shutoffs. So in addition to supporting the network, we also collaborate with other organizations and help to support each other's work, like Community Ready Corps supports us, and and it has helped us with things like helping us with kits and even with security at our site when we had security issues. We also work with organizations like Food Shift with food redistribution, and Netivat Shalom works with a chef. So we're able to offer prepared meals to our requesters, along with some other home cooks that help us with prepared meals. Um, and then, as I was saying, we have these programs as well. So our focus has been to try to think holistically about the ways in which our community needs to be supported at this time, while also trying to think of ways to strengthen connections and systems that go beyond the current crises. And so, with all the different community work that we're engaged in, um, support is still needed to continue developing the physical spaces as hubs, so that we're able to continue offering support. And that does include this support with solar power and things like this, because a lot of our focus has been on the services that we're offering, and like building up the hubs is a huge and important part of everything, especially with um, making sure that we have power, because one of the responses from last year's outages were fears of lost power for disabled folks who rely on electrical equipment to live, and also for the need for refrigeration for medications and things of this nature. So it's truly essential to have that sort of support. And so I'll just go through some more of these pictures. Like I said, this is, we have one picture of a home cook offering some meals to deliver. We have a picture of someone delivering groceries and a homemade air purifier filter. And then some donations of masks and some COVID kits ready to go out, and someone and like delivering Katrina delivering some bread for us to distribute. It's a picture of our founder, Stacy, and a picture of us at last year's Thanksgiving. Just showing that the house is also for gatherings and for classes. The picture on the right is a picture of a class that we had been holding regularly at the physical location before COVID hit and we moved to Zoom. And then a picture of CRC in action, because we do try to work with CRC, and they have supported us in our efforts. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We could always use more support, so please check us out at Disability Justice Culture Club.
Amazing. Thank you, Patrice. There's so much that you all are doing with in the disability justice community that really are lessons for the rest of us on how to take care of community, and just honor you all and how organized you've been, and the support that you all need to make sure you have power to live and the resources to help out. So thank you, Patrice. Round of applause. Push your reaction applauses for the Disability Justice Culture Club. So next up on our speaker lineup is Keta Price, the Director of Urban and Regional Planning for the East Oakland Collective. She's also the advisory team for the Resilience Hubs initiative with NorCal Resilience, and is a founding member of People Power Solar. Keta will share this innovative example of cooperative energy and community-centered development. Keta, please take it away.
Hey, Michelle, good looking. Thank you. I'm gonna share my screen real quick, get it together. Hope everybody doing cool, you feel me? I'm actually kind of liking the apocalyptic look. Orange is my favorite color. And so, yes, it's like an Instagram filter every time I walk outside. So I'm loving it. But I'm here today. Again, I'm Keta Price, founding member of the People Power Solar Cooperative. And I just want to share some updates about how we kind of, how we're bringing resilient hub, the concept of resilient hubs to life. And we're actually right now focusing most of our projects in Ohlone occupied land of East Oakland, deep East Oakland to be exact. And so before we get started, I just want to ground everybody in kind of the, just want to let everybody know about the different state of minds that exist out there and why cooperatives are so different and important. So quickly, you have the market state of mind. That's kind of like the normal market seller buyer transaction, seller buyer, not many benefits. And then you have the charity state of mind when someone gives you something for free, but that only leaves one person with the ownership and benefit of whatever that is. In this case, energy. And then you have the common state of mind where you can work together so that everybody can have ownership of the product and say so. And in this case, again, it's energy. How do I go forward? Okay. And so the People Power Solar Cooperative, to us, energy is basically a tool for building power in community. And energy is way more than just electricity that powers your house or your cell phone. So for example, it helps you grow food, make clothes, and transport goods in the community. Like energy can do a whole bunch of stuff. Man, this is energy right now. Like I'm energized talking to y'all and just having so many people on the call. It's probably the biggest Zoom call I've been on in the past week. So yeah, y'all feed me a lot of energy right now. So the People Power Solar Cooperative's mission is to create a just and inclusive transition to renewable energy by enabling everyone to own and shape our energy future. And so again, reiterating how we do that through the commons model as a cooperative. People buy ownership shares of the cooperative and those funds pay for the solar installations, that's labor and the actual structure of the solar panel. And so and the site host actually pays a monthly bill to the cooperative. And yeah, so this basically allows anyone to build together and build power. And so I'd just like to go over 2 examples on how we're doing that. Again, it was mentioned that I'm a founder member of the cooperative, but I'm also part of the East Oakland Collective, a local group who's part of the Black Culture Zone. And I'm also just an East Oakland 3rd generation native. So wearing many hats, I make sure that things are connected. And so as a cooperative, we are basically, even though we're a cooperative corporation as an entity, we're more like a toolbox of resources to support groups to build solar projects. So as I mentioned, I wear kind of multiple hats. So under my native East Oakland just neighbor person hat, my mom and I just going to, first of all, before I go and show you the examples, just want to reiterate the different, reiterate what the cooperative offers, and it's technical, legal, and administrative assistance on these different solar projects. And all we from my cooperative hat, all we ask the community to do is choose sites, build interest, stay in tune, and recruit more project members to keep it going. And so now back into my neighbor hat, I always say I want my house to be one of the most resilient houses in the hood. So my mom owns our house, bought it about 3 years ago, and I'm currently the renter. And so, yeah, I want to have one of the most resilient houses in the hood, and I want to be able to help community, have a place where community can come to, a resilience hub, where people can come to if something was to happen. And not just if a disaster was to happen, but just if needed. And so I live on a block with a lot of elders. So before I get to that, I just want to show on the left side of the screen in blue is the current usage and cost of what I do in my house. And under that, in the green, you see 6 panels. So that's just kind of a projected, guesstimated guess of what adding 6 panels, just adding 6 panels can basically offset the cost from up top in the blue. And then if you go to the right, on the right side of the screen, it shows you kind of like in kilowatts, how much more that would be and like what you can actually do with those extra kilowatts or whatnot. So one idea is like an electric vehicle and the other is a community fridge. And so back to like talking about the elders on my block, you feel me? Right now, I want to focus more on the electric vehicle, but I do want to again expand to be a community benefit and resource so that the older folks on my block, the OGs, a lot of people are on respirators and different machines that need energy. And so I want to be that house where people can come and charge up the essential important things that they need, in the worst cases. And so that's one way that we're working. We as a cooperative are working with neighbors to identify projects. And another way that we're doing so is working with groups. I mentioned the East Oakland Collective is a partner of the Black Culture Zone. And the Black Culture Zone is an initiative to help preserve the culture and Black people in East Oakland. And right now, the Black Culture Zone has a lot that's been vacant, a publicly owned lot that's been vacant for almost 15, 20 years. And we've been activated over the past 3 months. And yes, we basically want to see how we can use this lot as a multifunctional purpose. And so definitely want to make sure that we're educating and exploring how energy can be used at this lot. And so you see here the solar trailer that we were able to just borrow and use to see how off the grid units can be used at the lot to help us kind of visualize it and just test it out. And in addition to the off the grid unit, we just really working with the solar cooperative to explore how Black ownership of energy can happen long term. And so as you saw, there's way more than just, there's a lot of environmental and social benefits to both of the projects that I just mentioned. The community gets well from sharing revenue, increased energy literacy to our community, and particularly the Black community, which is important, the BIPOC community. Microgrid connects households, and another shared benefit from special energy projects, meaning that we can have some other additive benefits like street lights, refrigeration, and charging stations throughout the hood. And so, yeah, this was just all to say that electrical power is just a tip of the iceberg for the solar cooperative, and more importantly, we care about building economic and political power for the people, by the people. And so, yeah, just lastly, yeah, that's pretty much wrapping it up. Again, the People Power Solar Cooperative, we're here, and we're got a call to action for you because we're building community backup power. And so right now we have the opportunity for power and for solar and battery. Yes, solar and battery. Right, community-led, community finance, and community resilient solar and battery. So if you're interested, or if you're an owner, a property owner, or if you know a property owner that's interested in hosting a panel or a battery on at your house, contact one of our worker members, Crystal, at crystalpeoplepowersolar.org, and we'll go from there. There's also a link right here that I'll drop in the chat so that you can, express your interest. But that's pretty much all I have for today. And again, thank y'all so much for giving me the time. And yeah, it's, all power to the people. I'm trying to find my slide.
All power to the people. Woohoo, Keta! Applause.
Thank y'all so much.
For Keta and People Power Solar Co-op. Amazing. Imagine if everybody had the energy that Keta has, how much more amazing our world would be. So happy that Keta is making those moves in Oakland. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
So we are going to take in all that good energy and information from Keta and from Susan and from Patrice, and see what questions you have for our first set of panelists. Let's see, folks can type questions into the chat, and I know that our tech support crew of Jada and Lincoln are harvesting questions. Let's see, I'm going to see what we have. Well, here's a question. Let's start with Keta. How can local homeowners get affordable solar? How can local homeowners get affordable solar?
Oh yeah, how can you get affordable solar? Again, I'm a homeowner. Well, my mom is, and we're exploring the same thing. So one way to do it is link up with the cooperative. And again, we'll be a tool we'll be a tool, a resource, at your hand to explore state incentives and all kind of other funding opportunities to finance, yeah, to make sure we bring solar to you. So the shares that everyone put in actually pays for the solar unit and the labor. And so hooking up with us, we can basically create a project out of yeah, adding solar to your roof and help it get financed through the people.
Excellent. And yes, so including, you know, getting solar to folks to through like equitable practices, right? The folks who don't have it now, and figuring out ways to do that. The cooperative model that People Powered Solar Co-op has gets that out to more folks, more types of folks, especially communities of color. Another question we have, let's go to Susan. Is there a comparable network in Southern California or the San Joaquin Valley on the resilience hubs?
No, this resilience network is a Northern California base, but the vision is that, you know, improving our success here in this region, it could be easily replicated in other regions across California, across the country, across the world. So the answer is not yet.
Not yet, but take note and study the ways of the NorCal Resilience Network, right?
Happy to talk about replication.
Awesome. And at the end of our webinar, there are ways that you can get involved in learning how to do that and get your hands into these practices. But yet stay till the end. Another question. Let's see. We have oh, here's one. So the solar systems that you have, Keta, are those just in Oakland, or can that be implemented in Richmond too? Because folks want to know where this can happen.
Yeah, this can happen. So the cooperative is really, we have like a regional focus. Our members are from everywhere across the, well, not everywhere, Bay Area wide. And so, yes, we definitely reach Richmond in other places. When I mention that right now, we're kind of focusing on East Oakland. It was just, but we do more. It's just the fact that with all that's going on in the world, from the pandemic to George Floyd and everything like that, we were just kind of called to focus our work more on a place-based location. And so since I'm in East Oakland and have a lot of connections, that's where we've been. Yet we do it in Richmond, we do it in Hayward, you know, where it makes sense and where there's capacity to do so. So yeah, hit us up.
Cool. Patrice, can you talk about the solar that you all got access to? Like, how did that get, like, what's the way that either that got financed or was that donated?
Oh, we don't currently have at this time.
Oh, I don't know why I thought. All right, there's an opportunity for folks who are interested in supporting the disability justice community that our practices in making these technologies available to all members of our community is to make sure that we're putting those who are most impacted by especially our energy troubles, our energy problems, are at the front of the line to get these kinds of systems and benefits.
But I could say that we did receive some support from NorCal Resiliency Hub Network for building out the physical space, and also some of the resources that we were able to raise as part of Power to Live in the emergency response. We're trying to guide towards like the physical spaces and like making the spaces more of hubs in addition to the mutual aid network. So I think that's where we're thinking about like trying to put some of those resources toward solar power, just in for the reasons that we had mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm. Cool. There are I'm seeing some technical questions that are here. Let's see. Here's one. Well, let's talk about solar plus storage. We're also going to get to that a little bit later in the second half of our webinar, but there's a question now. Does that solar include financing for storage, and so that you have the power when the grid fails? So I think that's as we're seeing the power shutoffs happen, microgrids and our ability to island our energy system from the grid, from PG&E, is something that we're going to need to have. And so the storage part around batteries being connected. Can any of you talk about Keta, Patrice, or Susan about the solar plus storage?
Is it possible to tag in a partner?
Sure.
I tag in Crystal if she's available.
I'm here.
Hey, can I tag in Crystal to answer that, please?
Wait, what's the question again?
Just is there pairing with storage with the solar systems that you have put in or installed or put in place?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part. Pairing storage and what?
Oh, have you been able to pair storage with the solar system so that it's solar plus storage?
Yes, absolutely. So I think it's important for folks to understand that we're not here to push for a specific technology at all. What we're doing here is really have community members come up to us and say they want to build collective wealth through energy assets. And we, based on whatever existing property or resources they have, we can help them tap into all the great work that's already, or the great options that's out there. So the examples, like 2 examples that Keta mentioned, are basically Keta coming up with these ideas. May seem crazy when you don't have grant money, but really the cooperative common state of mind is about the fact that when we all work together, we don't need to wait for grant, foundation, charity money. We can actually build the resources we need. And the staff here is really to find the great partners, like shout out to Footprint Project, Will's on the line here, like finding these partners to help gather resources so that we can start test out what permanent ownership of energy could look like. It could be battery storage plus solar, it could be refrigeration, it could be shared electric vehicle, it could be charging station, it could be anything that communities want, and we do it. But if folks are specifically interested in solar plus storage, we are working with East Bay Community Energy on a very exciting program called Resilient Home Program. Here's the one pager I'm dropping in chat, and I know that Lincoln and Jada will follow up with more information too, but you can find more information right now if you're so curious. There's a link.
As I said, we'll get into a little bit more about solar plus storage later towards the end of the webinar. What we're going to do right now is take a stretch break, bio break, whatever you need for a minute. So if you're staying, we'll do a stretch as you need. Oh, looking at Keta. Whatever stretch you feel you need, please do that. And we'll come back in a minute at 2:50. All right, everybody, come on back. It's great to see the 90+ people on this webinar, how useful it is to be hearing these stories and these solutions for our communities today. Waking up this morning and seeing that it looked like it was nighttime, that it was gloomy, like, is it worth waking up, getting up today? And I knew this webinar was happening, and that there are people who are ready with solutions for us for these apocalyptic times as we've been building them over the years. And this is exactly the kind of space that we need to lift our hearts today. And so thank you already for those who have spoken on the panel, Keta, Susan, Patrice. And now we're gonna hear from an exciting set of community energy experts. Our community organizers, those who have their their ears to the ground, who are building deep relationships with people, and to approach energy from a community need place. Because we know under PG&E and under dirty power plants that they're this dying industry is trying to hang on to itself. And here are community organizers trying to bring in a new way, a cleaner way, a way for energy to be valued and used in relationship to, in right relationship to land and to community. And so we have folks, our next panelists come from Communities for a Better Environment, Electricity Equals Life, Local Clean Energy Alliance. And so our next three panelists are up. And first up is Laura Gracia from Communities for a Better Environment. CBE is one of the leading environmental justice organizations in the state. Powerful, powerful organizing that happens through CBE. Laura, will you share your stories and organizing with us? Oh, unmute.
Hey everyone, can you hear me? Yeah, okay, hi, my name is Laura. I use she and they pronouns. I'm with Community for a Better Environment. Thank y'all for having me. Quick disclaimer, the person who I'm stepping in for is Angela Scott. She's our East Oakland organizer. She is amazing, and as an amazing organizer, she prioritized working with community today, which is totally important and super important and like super important. So I'm here to try to share some of the things that folks in East Oakland have been doing and that we've been doing statewide. So thank y'all for having me. Yeah, so I wanted to start off and just kind of reiterate things that folks have already been saying, specifically like resilience. Resilience is definitely about infrastructure, but overall it's about community and it's about personal relationships. So even like SCDE is the organization that we are in leading a lot of frontline environmental justice work. A lot of it is driven by our members. So our resilience work started as kind of like, it started off as building a curriculum around climate adaptation, supporting policy and participating in like local city plannings and general planning and stuff like that. But like our real on the ground and like real resilience transformative work came from our members. It came from the needs that they were voicing, from the materials that they were asking for, that they needed to be resilient in times of emergencies. And that's what really kicked off our efforts in resiliency. So obviously like resiliency is community led. And with that, we've seen how our members have become like go-to people in the community, how the relationships that have been built and the leadership development that has been built with organizers and our community members, it's rippled throughout the community because folks recognize, are recognized as leaders in the community. People come to them, people ask for information, people ask questions. And overall, it's because there's that like knowledge, but there's also that connection to networks, right? The connection to like clubs, to groups, to hubs, and to different organizations. So really uplifting the fact that like there's infrastructure, and that infrastructure is also like within one another. And then something that like I know that I've been seeing a lot right now, especially with everything that's been going on, is a lot of agencies and local governments have been talking more about just recovery and have been talking more about just transition and like all of these like key words, you know, that we've been using. But it's still very top down focused, right? It's still very like even infrastructure focused, and it still highlights this like, it's like development is kind of like the solution, or like building out is like the solution. But we know that it's not. What we need are localized solutions, right? And that's why the work that folks at People Solar Power, oops, I'm forgetting. I know that it's those words, but I'm putting them in the wrong order. That like Keta and Crystal have been leading, that like decentralized co-op economic structure where we're building the wealth in communities. That's the real solution, right? That's the way that we're going to truly transform our local economies and like truly like support our community wealth. And okay, so those are like the 3 points. And then some of the work that I have been doing has been more like state focused. And I know that like our members in East Oakland have been really interested in the SOMA program. So the SOMA program is a solar on multifamily affordable housing. It's not perfect, it's super limited. But the only good thing is that like it has some funding, right? Like it's not the funding, the state isn't going to come up with this perfect solution, right? They're going to pick those things that kind of work in the moment, that are all that stuff. State isn't going to come up with a perfect solution, but this is one solution that we have been advocating for a while, and it's something that our communities have been using, and it's super helpful and has been really helpful for us in trying to bring in more solar into multifamily housing, and especially in frontline communities. Yes, only people have the answer. Yeah. And then the other work that I was asked to, yeah, I'll wrap up.
Thank you.
Is that what you said?
Yes, please. You're doing awesome.
Okay. And then the last thing I'll talk about is, so we were just funded through the Strategic Growth Council research effort with PSC Healthy Energy and A10. So we're going to be participating on research efforts that are focused on evaluating the potential for community solar and storage, specifically in frontline communities, and what they look like in like what schools and community centers would be the best to equip, considering like their proximity to vulnerable communities and in their words, vulnerable communities, but frontline communities, environmental justice communities. It'll also include like design parameters and costs and benefits of the systems, including the GHG reductions and resilience metrics. So that research is happening statewide, but CBE will be focusing on kind of like outlining what a pilot project would look like in Wilmington, and then A10 will be doing that for Richmond. So that will be some really cool work coming out. The last thing I'll say, I just rewatched the Just Recovery conversation that was held by Ceja at the recent Congreso, and something that Joyisha Dutta co-founding artist, activist, strategist at another Gulf as Possible said that just kind of stuck with me is our relationships are a part of just recovery, right? In this moment of reckoning, just transition doesn't just mean energy. It's about the power that drives our heart and humanity. So it's something that's really stuck with me, and I'm hearing it all over today again. So thank you.
Applause for Laura and CBE. You hit your icons, reactions on there. Wonderful. Just the, yeah, what we need right now, like community organizing and the relationships that we have with each other to strengthen those is a climate solution, right? And so CBE and the other environmental justice organizers demonstrate that really well, the power to advocate on broader issues statewide, the partnerships, the way you can move $1 billion into solar for renters and those who are in affordable housing through the SOMA program, that is built on that community organizing makes that possible. And so that's the kind of work that I love CBE and other EJ groups for. And so also another amazing example for you all, for the panel is from Electricity Equals Life, for EEL. And so we have Marg Hall, who is a disability rights activist living in Berkeley, who during the power shutoffs collected stories from affected people with disabilities. And they had frightening accounts of major and sometimes life-threatening disruptions. And they're organizing to bring that to our attention and to solve those things because they are solvable. Marg, will you grace us with your stories, please?
Okay, here we go. I've unmuted. All right, so we're a very small grassroots organization. We try to cause trouble, good trouble, as much as we can. We formed in panic over the power shutoffs because we felt like that the PSPS events were a real imminent threat to actually hundreds of thousands of people throughout the state of California because the areas impacted, you know, were huge. There's a couple of things I wanted to just off the top mention about people with disabilities that you may or may not know. It's a very important tradition that we see our right to live in the community, in our homes as a civil right. That's very important. We don't want to be segregated into institutions. So living at home in an independent manner is very important. And to do that, we do need electricity, many of us. The needs range from very important moment-to-moment breathing, like ventilators, oxygen, to communication for people who are deaf and hard of hearing or blind, or anyone who has mobility issues. So there's a big range of people's needs for electricity in order to maintain independent living. And the second thing is that most people don't realize that a lot of medical devices people get do not have much battery backup capacity, maybe a few hours. So the idea that you can go to the local library to recharge your devices is not very practical. PG&E set up resource centers. They might help some people, but seemed to us mostly it helped people going to work to charge their cell phones, and didn't really help people with disabilities who could barely get to these places, much less spend every few hours to go and charge their devices. It just doesn't work like that. So the resiliency for people with disabilities in terms of electricity needs has to be at home, inside the home. So with that, looking at some of the technology, there are portable batteries. The biggest is Goal Zero that provides 3,000 watts. That doesn't really help for many. It will help some people with disabilities, but it won't provide much long-term help for electricity over a period of days. Might take somebody through one day, depending on their needs. So the portable devices or batteries have a place, but that's not a big solution. The other thing, obviously generators aren't going to work for people with disabilities, live in apartments, urban areas, and all the other problems with generators. So we started looking at the SGIP program, which is a PG&E and PUC mandated program to fund. And it's an individualistic approach, mostly, except for the SOMA program, which I love. But we started to work with a program to get batteries for people who lived in high hazard fire zones on what's called medical baseline. Now, the rebate program through PG&E is supposed to pay for 100% of the price of a residential battery that would be about 10 to 13 watts of power, which is a pretty good storage capacity. It could get a person with a disability, I'll keep them alive for a few days pretty easily. So we thought that was an important program to access. You won't be surprised to hear that it's more about looking to do things that are helpful than actually doing things that are helpful. With PG&E, it's very frustrating. And also the PUC is very frustrating to work with. So this program spends millions, hundreds of millions of dollars on this energy, equity, resiliency, battery storage program. And it's not accessible to low-income people. The big problem being lack of capital. It doesn't include solar regeneration, so it does run out in a power shutoff that's more than a few days. And it does not, even theoretically, it includes renters. It really doesn't include people that live in apartment buildings or who are renters. So a separate program needs to be developed that really can robustly fund those needs. One of the things that I'm most interested in seeing is a pilot program with resiliency hubs that provide within an apartment building a community room that has power with critical loads, so that you can go right from your apartment down the elevator to plug in your storage batteries, or have that kind of capacity in the units as well. But the problem is that when a power shutoff happens, the elevators don't work. So if you have mobility issues, and a lot of people do, you're going to be stuck day after day in an apartment building that's getting hotter and hotter if it happens to coincide with a heat wave. So that's a real important, I'd say, priority, is to get low-income, affordable housing apartment buildings in fire zones, because the SOMA program doesn't include the hazard fire zone. So it doesn't impact really people who are hit with the power shutoffs. So I would say that that would be a pretty important thing to develop programs to assist. I don't see it happening. I don't see the funding, but I think it's a need that needs to be addressed. So I think that's about it.
Share a closing thought.
I'm done. I'm done. That was
You're
it.
done.
Yeah.
Applause for Marg and the super important work and the details about like what would keep power on homes with folks with medical devices. Such a just so important for us to know. You know, even folks in our families who are elders, etc. Yeah, lots of community members who we need to learn these kinds of details for, and helping them be resilient, especially around energy. Thank you for that, Marg. And our last but not least speaker, the most fiery one possibly of all, we have Jessica Tovar, who is an amazing organizer with the Local Clean Energy Alliance. Jessica is going to talk about Local Clean Energy Alliance's work and the urgent need to bring off-grid solar projects to resilience hubs. Jessica, will you take it away?
For sure. Okay, what I need to do is figure out how to share my screen. I don't see that option. Let's see. Is there a way for me to share screen?
It should be that green button down at the bottom of your, yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Okay, so community choice energy. This has been our campaign for many years. And we see community choice energy as an opportunity for community benefits in particularly Alameda County and Tracy. But we also advocate for community choice programs and benefits working with other communities in different parts of California. So one of the things that I want to just emphasize is that we have worked for many years with the local Alameda County city communities, community groups, local activists, to really think deeply about what are the community benefits we need from our community choice energy program. So we do a lot of education, host town halls, workshops, and really sample the community and ask, well, what is it that we need in order to make this transformation, a just transition to clean energy in our communities? So one of the things that we did in the beginning was to set community benefit goals. And the 7 goals were to prioritize building local clean energy resources in our community, providing affordable and stable rates for electricity, providing more clean energy than the California state mandates and more than PG&E, create good family sustaining local jobs and actually putting our communities to work so they can afford to stay in the Bay Area where they grew up and where they live. Local community ownership and control, really emphasizing, that we need more cooperatives and innovative models coming from our community, and really making room for that and starting to think outside of the box in terms of our different ownership models. We want to improve our community health and safety, and also include community in the decision-making process. So that logo is the East Bay Clean Power Alliance, of which I've also been a coordinator for the past couple years. What we did was we advocated for a local development business plan. Sometimes we refer to it as the LDBP. What it pretty much is a plan for how to build local clean energy resources and assets in our communities. It's a local Green New Deal, and we've been working on this way before that has been popularized in more recent years. So our local community choice program is East Bay Community Energy, and it's been providing electricity in Alameda County and now City of Tracy since 2018. And so your line item on your PG&E bill for electricity is actually going to a local program, East Bay Community Energy. So what's really important for us is really that these resources reach our communities, many of which you've spoken today, that we transform our communities from sacrifice zones to actual solutions for our survival, for our most vulnerable communities. One thing that I want to emphasize is at the time that George Floyd was murdered by police, and we had all these Black Lives Matter uprisings again in the response to that, we were discussing the budgets for East Bay Community Energy. And one thing that we noted was the explicit need to spell out what equity looks like and who are the communities on the ground that need these resources. So vulnerable communities, to me, are Black, Indigenous, people of color, low-income people, the elderly, the disabled, the detained, our youth, our immigrants, veterans, the unhoused, women, our LGBTQIA, etc. communities that we all want to work with and uplift. And it was mentioned earlier that renters, multifamily housing projects, think about transitional housing like I think about like those tiny homes that are being provided by churches and activists in different parts of the East Bay. These are the communities that need access to clean energy and battery storage. This is a life and death situation for many of our communities, and this is where we need to start. This isn't exclusively, I mean, the problem with our system is it's only offered to homeowners. It's only offered to people who could afford that. And solar has been like a luxury, right, in our system. And we need to flip that script and start with the communities on the ground who need it the most, who have been impacted and dumped on for way too long, right? So one of the other issues I want to highlight is that we need new finance models. It shouldn't be that, you know, in order to have access to solar and battery storage, that you have, you know, thousands of dollars to put down. That's not realistic for our communities, right? And so one other option would be to use on-bill finance, where the actual savings from your electrical bill will go to making payments on the system. So essentially it would be paying for itself over time, as opposed to, you know, telling people that they need to get a loan, or if you have $2,000 right now, we can get started. We need to start thinking about alternatives, because not everybody has access to this kind of capital. And certainly we would like to see you know, East Bay Community Energy, again, really emphasize how we can do this differently for the communities that need them the most, specifically a lot of folks that have spoken today.
And Jessica, I know that we're going to turn soon to East Bay Community Energy folks. So if you can just show us your last slides, that would be great.
Sure. Last slide. This is just an image of the local Clean Energy Alliance staff and some past staff. But one message I want to say is the work that we do is really about bringing clean power to the people. And that's where we really need your help in advocating and pushing these resources so they actually reach us and help our communities move forward in a good way. Thank you.
Amazing. And Jessica usually likes to lead us in a chant that goes, clean power.
To the people.
Clean power.
To the people.
Clean power.
To the people.
All right. Hands off to Jessica, the local Clean Energy Alliance, all that energy justice work that you all do. LCEA is the sponsor of the Reclaim Our Power campaign. I'm just getting to know the breadth and depth of and impact of LCEA through the energy landscape rooted in justice, and just super appreciate y'all's work and Jessica helping to lead that. We need more people like Jessica making the pathways for the things that we need possible. And so we have time for a couple of questions right now. I know that there have been some in the chat already that were asked and answered. For instance, Gabriela from the North Bay Organizing Project, one of our dear community organizing groups out there, asked Marg about, Gabby asked, did you say that it is not accessible because you have to pay out of pocket for the devices first, and then the SCHIP program pays later? So the question, is about, do you have to put the money up front to get the system installed before the SCHIP program like kicks in? And the answer from Marg is that, yeah, customers need to pay out of pocket first and wait for the rebate. We may have moved them to a program to fix this, but the money is almost allocated, meaning a lot of these good programs like don't have all the funds for people to access them, so it runs out because they're popular. There was a comment. Okay, so there's that question. What's another question? The link to CEJA, the California Environmental Justice Alliance, that Laura referred to as inspiration. Laura had put the link to the videos from the CEJA Congreso on the chat, so you can find that there. Another question is, how do we help poor counties that have disproportionately high number of BIPOC get CCAs? So community choice energy is what, like, I guess this is a question for Jessica, what LCA was able to get for Oakland and the East Bay as a way to channel some of the power away from PG&E's stronghold and created CCAs, or community choice programs. How can other counties get that? How can they start CCAs or get CCAs?
If that's a question for me, we really encourage local folks to advocate for what it is you need specifically in your community from your community choice program. And we do oftentimes, you know, we kind of cross-pollinate and think together about how, you know, folks can do that. And we also have publications of how we advocated for that in the East Bay area. It looks like somebody added in the chat an example from Rick, I think Thies is the last name, that Sonoma Clean Power will pay the upfront SGIP costs for low-income households, which is great. And I do know MCE recently launched a program to give away about 100 batteries, I think it is. So different community choice programs are either offering something or we need to be advocating them, right? To give what is needed in the community. You know, justice is never a given. It is fought for fiercely, and that is what we're doing in order to make sure that these benefits reach the communities that need them the most.
Mm-hmm. And we have about 8 minutes of the webinar left. So we're gonna hear from East Bay Community Energy for the next 3 or 4 minutes from JP Ross. And let's see. Yeah, JP, are you able to unmute?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks very much for the invitation. I was gonna share a couple slides on my screen as long as I can find that. So here we go. Let me know if that works. So can you see my resilient home slide?
Yes, we can see your slides, JP.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about a few of the activities and programs that East Bay Community Energy is working on now to provide resilience to the community. The first is our Resilient Home program. So this program was launched just a couple of months ago with a goal of installing over 1,000, hopefully thousands, of solar and storage systems on homes and multifamily housing units throughout the county. So we have partnered with Sunrun, which is a residential and multifamily solar and storage provider, to reach out to homeowners and multifamily property managers to help install solar and storage to provide resilience. So to participate in the program, everyone who wants to participate will need to install not only a solar system, but a storage system as well that will provide backup power to that home or that multifamily property. And right now we've initiated, focused on single family, and we're still working on the multifamily strategy. And so we have an offer out in market with Sunrun, and that is providing a $1,250 incentive for customers who do sign up. And Sunrun does have financing options. So participating customers do not have to necessarily have the cash to buy a system. They can do a lease or a loan or buy the system outright if they choose. So there's lots of different ways to participate. And then within this program, we have a minimum target of 20% of our systems being installed in our disadvantaged and low-income communities, or on care customers who are lower income customers, or medical baseline. And we do have a specific medical baseline program that I'll talk about in a couple of minutes. But our goal is to exceed this target. We want to make sure that more than 20% of our systems are installed, but that is the contractual kind of obligation that we have with Sunrun to meet that threshold. We are also working on a commercial program that will provide resilience to commercial entities that are focused on providing resilience to their communities. We're still working on that. So we don't have anything to talk about there right now, but that's under development as well. Very quickly, because I know we're on limited time, we are also working on a critical facilities resilience program. So we have evaluated now over 300 facilities that our cities have told us about. So each city in its emergency plan identifies critical facilities that provide services to the community. So we know where those facilities are, what the services that they need to provide have been identified by the cities. And now we're starting to move through a procurement plan for that. So we issued a request for information out to the solar industry to get good ideas about how EVCE can catalyze and accelerate the deployment of this type of infrastructure. And then our plan is to issue a request for proposals in this winter to help deploy solar and storage on these critical facilities to provide a variety of services to communities in times of power outages.
Sorry, the time is so short, JP. If you could do your last slide, that would be awesome.
Yep, this is it. So the very last slide is just more information that we can share out so people can have that. So this is our medical baseline program. We do have a medical baseline program underway. It's in development. People can read the bullet points, but COVID presented some challenges to this program because we are working with emergency services and hospitals, and they were, for understandable reasons, have been distracted due to COVID. But we are also working on a dedicated program for medical baseline customers, which, as Marg identified, the blackouts to those customers are potentially life-threatening, not just inconvenient. And so we need to really be focused on how we can deploy resilience to those customers so that in times of power shutoffs, they're not threatened. Life is not threatened. So I'll stop there. I know time is short. Thanks very much.
Thank you, JP. Applause to JP. There's so many questions for you, JP, and suggestions. If you can figure out on chat how to answer some of those, that would be amazing. But this last part is really how you can get involved with these efforts. And Jessica, will you take it, help share how folks can get involved with these efforts and call to action?
Sure. So first, foremost, I want to just emphasize, if you RSVP today, we do have your contact. We will follow up with you over email. One of the things that I heard is there's all these great ideas. Everybody here who has spoken has a niche, right? Some people like East Bay Community Energy has some resources. Some folks like in DJCC can use having battery and storage, for their hub. And I'm sure, many of the other community leaders who've spoke today could use such benefit in their community, because one of the things that is pretty clear is that community is coming together to help themselves, to help each other, right? But certainly solar and battery storage is really a huge, requires a huge resource and technical expertise to actually acquire. And so we certainly want to emphasize moving those resources into the hands of the communities to be able to continue to provide the resilience hub needs and meet those, be able to weather these many storms. We're currently living in the midst of a multitude of crises that are absolutely terrifying. And at the same time, we're grieving our loved ones who we can't see right now and some who we will never see again. So one thing I just want to emphasize is that we will follow up with you. Another thing we do want to see is a working group of community folks who want to be able to do follow-up work and advocacy to be able to move these resources into the various communities that need them the most here in the East Bay and beyond. So with that, I thank you so much for joining us. I am so glad that we were still able to get connected and without interruption. If it wasn't for electricity and our communications, we would not be able to do this today. So thank you very much for your time. Clean power to the people. I hope you are inspired to do more, and whatever it is that you have in abundance to share, now is the time to take care of each other more than ever. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all the panelists, Jessica, Marg, Laura, Keta, Susan.
And our tech support.
Tech support, Jada, Lincoln.
Thanks, JP.
Everybody. Patrice. All right.